So now what we'll do is we'll go through and we'll generate our login component. So back in my terminal window here, I'll make use of that ng generate, and I'll give components/login. And I'll just move over here to the source directory just to verify that these new files were created. So components, and then we have this new login component. And what we'll do is we'll start with this login component.html. And so basically in this file here, I'm going to clear this out and I'll set up a div container for the Okta sign-in widget. So I'll set up this one div here and I'll have Okta sign-in widget. And then what I'll do is I'll move over and open up the login component.ts file so I can start adding some TypeScript code. So one thing I need to do up top is do an import on that myappconfig that I created a little bit earlier. So I'll have this import myappconfig from, and then use the relative directories here, to kind of go up two directories over to config/myappconfig. And then I'll set up a reference to Okta sign-in. And in my constructor here, I'm going to inject the Okta auth service. And then I'll fix the imports. And what I'll do is I'll create a new Okta sign-in entity here. And we'll have to make a reference here for this Okta sign-in up top. So I'll do an import. And then give from Okta/Okta sign-in widget.
It seems as though we still have an error. Interesting. Let's hover over the error and see if we can find out some information. And oh, okay, good. Good info here. Let's zoom in because they give us some possible fixes or how to resolve this issue. And here it says add a new declaration file containing declare module Okta/Okta sign-in widget. Okay, cool. So let's just switch gears for a bit and find out about TypeScript declaration files. So a TypeScript declaration file provides type information for JavaScript libraries. It helps IDEs and compilers to leverage type information of JavaScript libraries. Now what we'll need to do is create a new file, and our file location will be in source/Okta sign-in widget.d.ts. So that's the extension for TypeScript declaration files. And if you'd like more information on TypeScript declaration files, use the URL that I have here on the screen. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and swing back into our IDE and let's make this update. And what we need to do is create a new file in the source directory, and we'll call it octasigninwidget.d.ts. Let me go ahead and collapse some of my other directories here. And let's create a new file in the source directory. So select source and then create a new file. And for the name of the file, we'll call it octasigninwidget.d.ts. You can actually give it any name as long as we use the same extension, but here I'll just kind of keep it simple and just use the same name. And then I'll actually use information that showed up in that error message, the possible fix. So they said, hey, add a new declaration containing declare module octasigninwidget. So I'll simply type that same information here in this file.
All right, so that should take care of that issue we had earlier. So now we have Okta sign in. And so I'll give a parameter here for the logo. So this is assets images / logo.png. So that's our love to shop logo. It could be any logo that you want to provide. For the base URL, I make use of myappconfig, OIDC, the issuer.split /OAuth. So basically here, I'm just saying, hey, give me everything in the URL before OAuth 2. Then for the client ID, I simply just use the client ID as is. So myappconfig, OIDC.clientID. Then we have the redirect URI. So this is basically the callback, and we can simply use what we have from our configuration. So OIDC.redirect URI. So a lot of this stuff is similar to the configs that we set up earlier. Now we'll specify some auth params. So make use of the PKCE, set that to true. And for issuer, again, we just get a reference here from our config.issuer. And also the scopes. And again, simply grab that information from our config. All right, so that's the basic setup here that we need to create as we initialize this Okta sign-in widget. Now, the one thing here, the PKCE, remember that's the proof key for code exchange. We saw that in some of the earlier slides, basically saying here, we're going to make use of dynamic secrets for passing the information between our app and the authorization server. And that's the recommended approach for integrating our application with the Okta authorization server. Okay, good job.